Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Boy, do we got a good show for you tonight, and my dogs are cheering me on like always, because that's what they do. I got my own audience. You can hear them in the background. See? Anyway, and they love me. They love me. And just like everybody else, hey, thank you all for coming tonight. What is your problem? No, he's really getting into it. But anyway, we're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to be talking about aliens and gods. And we're going to be talking about a guy named Paul Wallis, who wrote a fascinating book, Escaping from Eden. So let's get right on to this. I got to do a few little catch-up things here, but it should all be good. It should be all good. Tap into the YouTube algorithm here and look what I got going. And I see there's people in the chat room. I got Chloe in the chat room, and she says, there we go. Hey there, Robert B. Hope you had a good day, hon. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate so much. It was a very good day. It was better than I expected and worse than I thought. No. Anyhow, it's all good. No matter which way you do it, it was a day gone by that I survived, and here I am. But anyway, this is the book. It's called Escaping from Eden. Now, I read this book a long time back, and it really opened my eyes. And this guy, Paul Wallis, he has now written a bunch of books. Scars of Eden, and Echoes of Eden, and his latest book, which I haven't even read yet, The Eden Conspiracy. So there you go. I've read most all of them except for the last one, which I just got recently, and I've been too busy studying on everything else to really get into reading that one. But as you can tell, I've already got this one all marked up because I have studied it up pretty good. Found all my favorite parts, and I think I've talked about this book before here. This really, really was an eye-opener. It really was. And as we all know, we just read the Alien interview, and if you haven't seen that, you can go back and check it out. There was about 10 episodes, I think it was 9 episodes, 10 episodes, where I read the Alien interview book. Very good, really made you start thinking about a few things, and I hope you all enjoyed that. The beginning of this book, the Escaping from Eden, was, I should say, it made you start to think about, what really happened, and have what I've been reading, when you read the Bible or you've heard stuff about it, whichever way, because most people really haven't read the Bible. Hey, there's Lucky Stone. And they haven't read the Bible. They've read parts of it or had somebody read it to them. They probably never gave it much thought. Adam and Eve, the apple, biting the apple. God said don't. They did. The serpent said, yeah, eat the apple. You'll become, smarter. And then when they did, God got mad, and, and there you go. There's a story. Kicked them out of the garden and said, the heck with you people. So makes you think, what am I reading here? What is this story? And so we're going to go through a little bit of this, and we're going to skip around through this book. Like I said, I got a bunch of stuff marked already, and those were some of my favorite spots. So we're going to read some of that. And we're going to start out with Genesis. It says here, I'll just read some of this stuff, so we're going to skip a lot. Okay, if you ever read the first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis in the Bible, the stories of beginnings, then you probably have an idea of what the anomalies are, and we're derailing in the preparations for my next sermon series. In the chapter, I'm going to invite you to read over my shoulder and random notes I made as the portals in the scriptures began to open up. But I'll warn you, I'll be diving deep, and the anomalies appear early on. In fact, our familiar story gets messed up within the first verse of the Bible. Genesis, in the beginning, God created. What does this mean to you? God created. It says here, when he read the English verse, there's no problem. But with my interlinear Bible open, the Hebrew text on one side and the Greek of the Septuagint, I don't even know what that is, on the other, I can escape a rather big question. Why is the word Elohim not translated as God, shaped like a plural noun? How come it is plural if there is only one God? Which is a good question. So then the question is what does Elohim mean? So we're just gonna dive deep into this tonight, because I like to do these things. And of course, you know me, I always seem to have some trick up my sleeve, some stuff to look at. And let's see. We're gonna go with this. Okay. I gotta move a lot of stuff around on my screen here to get to this spot. And Elohim. Now we all seen this stuff before, and was this the Elohim? Who are the gods of the Bible? And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, why did they make these things like this in these inscriptions, these drawings of entities way back in the day? Okay, that's what I'm saying, is we're taking a deep dive back to that time. And as you can see in my background, it's called a cargo cult. When you find somebody who has more technology than you, sometimes people tend to worship those beings. Even the dog agrees. Okay. But anyhow, okay, we're going to look this up, and I'm going to show you guys what it means. I got to spell it first. Anyway, usually I have this all looked up, but I'm not. Okay. Meaning. There we go. Meaning. And we're going to go to here, and we're going to just walk through it, because that's what we do here. Elohim, Hebrew words, meaning and meanings, Hebrew education. Okay. Meanings of the Church Guide. What does Elohim meaning? Well, here we go. Oh, here, Elohim. Elohim. Plural of is Hebrew word meaning gods or godhood. Although the word is plural, in the Hebrew Bible, it is most often taken singular verbal or promiscuous agreement and refers to a single deity, particularly the God of Israel. Well, see, the thing is we're saying Elohim, or could be gods or one God, but the thing that means, it means he's still a plethora of them. He's a being. Just like I would say I was a human, and humans are human, but I am a human. Even if there is many of us, I would still refer to myself as a human. I wouldn't say I'm humans. So anyway, so then we're going to get back to the book here. Okay, get back to the book. I hope you're all enjoying this. Anyway, the next thing is Genesis 1:26. Let us make. Who is letting us make? This is the dawn of time before any intelligent creature has been named. So who or what are the others that God is talking to? That's what I'm saying. Is if you were human and you were saying, let us humans make, you wouldn't say, I'm human, I'm going to make. You're talking to yourself, right? Because you haven't made anybody yet. And then he says, let us make human beings to look like us. Well, why would he let human being look like us? Us is plural, isn't it? In the image and likeness of ourselves, not in the likeness. See, otherwise it would have been in the likeness of myself. I'm going to make somebody who looks like me. Nobody asks those questions. Why? Let's see. Then it says, Genesis 2:10-14, a river watering the garden flowered from Eden, and there it was separated into 4 headwaters. The name of the first is the Pison. It winds through the entire land of Havana. Now, see, the lands are already named. The lands are named, the rivers are named, and where there is gold. The gold of that land is good. Aromatic resin and oxen are also there. The name of the second river is the Gideon. It winds through the entire land of Cush. All these lands are already named. Who named them? The rivers are named. Who named them? The name of the third river is the Tigris. It runs along the east side of the Shur. And the fourth river is Euphrates. All these rivers have been named. They've been mapped. Somebody knows where they go. And they can see them from the air, apparently, because you know which, either that or you should say they've been mapped, because obviously you know where the rivers are running and where they connect. If somewhere in Eden the human beings been provided with a garden to meet all their needs, why is the Bible telling me that the geographical location of key mineral deposits, Havana, or for gold, resin and oxide, and the gold is high grade? Who needs those? How is this relevant? Besides that, if you're the only two people, Adam and Eve and God, what do you need gold for? What's the only thing gold is good for? Tell me that. And back in those days, the only thing it would be good for is maybe sculpting something, making a statue or something. The only thing gold is really good for is electronical technical use. You need gold to make electronical parts, go into space. You need those things to do those other things. Okay, Genesis 2:17. I hope this is making it clear to all of you. And if it isn't, well, look it up and do some studying. You need it. Okay, Genesis 2:17. But who must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or when you eat from it, you will certainly die. Now, obviously, if God is telling them this, then he obviously made the tree. See, that this is what you were told. If he's the only one, if he's the only God, then somebody must have ate of it and died. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said. Or he cursed the tree, and then he still knows what will happen. Or he's lying. So the question is, then does God lie? Well, that's kind of weird. Everything you've been told about God, and he's everything opposite of that. So let's go on. How is the knowledge of good and evil a bad thing for humans to have? If God wanted humans to be capable of free choice and love, and then surely this kind of moral awareness is absolutely essential. If the humans are incapable of disguising good from bad, and how can they choose the good or be held culpable if they choose the bad? Besides that, if Adam and Eve are the first two people, who's teaching them to do all this stuff? They can't be held liable either, because they're like children, unknowing. I mean, you would have to live lifetimes and have study and knowledge and programming in your body and your head so that you could function even. Surely, if the man and woman have no moral awareness of God and has set up to, as God has set them up to fail. That's what I'm saying. They can only fail. If they fail, how can he hold them responsible? That's a very good question. So, good question is if it's like taking a little kid and you take the little kid and you say, well, listen, I'm going to make you responsible for running the house. And of course, the little kid is going to fail miserably. And you're going to say, well, not my fault. You failed. You are a loser. And what is the little kid going to say? Well, I never ran a house before. You didn't teach me how to run a house. I didn't have any instruction on running the house. I guess I'm a failure. Right? Anyway, that doesn't make sense. On top of that, how can death be just punishment from a loving God? It doesn't fit the crime. Sometimes wrong with that picture. Something is wrong with that picture. See, and here's another thing. How can you threaten somebody with death? They have no idea what death really is. Surely you will die. Whoa, what's dying? Did God sit Adam and Eve down and said, listen, this is what death is? I mean, even if you explain to somebody what death is and they've never experienced it, never lost anybody, knew everybody that they knew, see, you wouldn't experience, you never see anything die. And then, see, and off the hook has got the right stuff. There's something wrong with that whole story. Yeah, there's something wrong with that story completely. Why would our Father do that? I think this is an Elohim that changed our DNA. Yeah, the Elohim that was changing the DNA. Some alien that picked two people, put them in a garden to protect them, because a garden is a fenced-in area. And then maybe they didn't use wire, they used the rivers. And so, and what I'm saying is so it's a protected area. Obviously, Adam and Eve running around the forest naked, having no clothes on at all, to protect themselves from anything, could get hurt really easily. Besides, what wild animals would attack them? Bugs to bite them. You never heard about it, Heck, you go run around the forest for a while. After a little bit, you're going to get bit by some mosquitoes, maybe some flies, things like that. I didn't hear about Adam and Eve were miserable in the garden. Bugs bit them everywhere, all over their body. It was, no, they never said that. What? The garden didn't have any bugs in it? Amazing. I want to go to that garden, especially without the mosquitoes. Okay, here's another one. Genesis 2:21. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and the wild animals. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. So the Lord caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. So, question is, well, he put him into a deep sleep. Sounds like he gave him some anesthetic and he put him to sleep. So that's what it's telling me. He's putting him to sleep and he's going to remove a rib. Now, you all know what most importantly about ribs. Ribs can, that's where if they're going to get your bone marrow, they're going to go to your ribs and take a rib and extract the bone marrow out of it for stem cells and things like that. So it just makes sense that they would extract the rib. And with that, they would have all your DNA and your stem cells, and then they could clone you. They're not going to quite clone it. So listen to this. Isn't this a little short-sighted? If the Almighty is the source of all wisdom, how can a female of the species be an afterthought? That's right. Question everything. If if you're God, just think about it. You're just a human being. If you're God, wouldn't you think, well, I'm going to make a man, and I want him. He's going to be a little lonely. No, I made him in my image, and I never get lonely. Huh? Nobody questions that part either. And besides that, well, isn't your little pet that you created gonna be, you know, he's gonna die someday, or maybe he'll live forever? Well, something's wrong with that picture. Anyway, how can women be given as a man's helper only after a line of pets has been proven inadequate? So that's another thing. God made the man, then he gave him every animal and said, here, try this one. Here, try this one. No, I'm not really happy. Travis the Brick is in the house. He says, do ribs regrow? No, they don't. Ribs do not regrow. None of your bones regrow. Otherwise, you could cut off your finger and tomorrow you'd have a new finger growing there. So, Max G is in the house. Hey, love and favor. Okay. Genesis 3:1. Now the snake. I always get a kick out of the snake thing because I think, well, I look at it this way. If Adam and Eve were there and they seen God and Adam walked with God and you got the serpent, the snake. Yeah, that's a good one. You got the snake, and Adam and Eve ain't afraid of the snake, nor are they afraid of God. Are God and the snake the same beings? Maybe that's another Elohim. And Off the Hook says, a snake that had up. You know what? Ding dong there. Anyway, so I ain't going to post that one because that'll get me kicked off of YouTube. Your teeth do. Yes. Some people regrow their teeth all the time. Other people, they have baby teeth, they fall out, and they have new teeth, and sometimes, most of the time, they don't grow back. But sometimes they do. Off the Hook says, sounds like a woman would have been first. Yeah, see, that's another thing. Was it the chicken or the egg? Good question. Since the woman is the only one that can pass on the mitochondria, the DNA strands, because when you're born and you're a man, how does that go? If I'm a man and I have a woman and I impregnate her, now we're getting into science here, and I am no scientist, maybe a conspiracy scientist, but not a real scientist of physiology. But I do know that if a man impregnates a woman, that when the baby is born, it is the DNA and stuff mostly comes from the woman. And her line is passed on, not the man's as much as the woman's is. Even though, I don't know how that goes, but if you're a scientist, get on here and come and tell me how it goes. That's something like that. It's always passed down through the woman's side. Chloe's having trouble with her phone. It's typing on its own, tripping. Regrouping. What's up? What's up, Mark Spark the Ark? Yeah, Off the Hook. You are smarter than you think. I'm sorry, I'm a little irritated with. No, you're right. I get irritated with this all the time. This goes through my head continuously. But see, because it makes you irritated, you know it's not right. And this should irritate everybody. So now let's read what he has to say about this. He says, okay, now the snake. Okay, who is this snake? Clearly, he is not a snake when he turns up. He is intelligent. He has arms and legs and can speak human. Well, he can speak anyway. I don't know. How do you speak human? Well, he can talk like everybody else. He's a significant player, but he arrives on the scene without any kind of introduction or explanation. So what is he? Who or what is he? He is not the Almighty, and he is not human. He has any other kind of being been named so far? Did I miss something? Did I skip the verse that explains what kind of being? No, it doesn't say what being he is. Just says. I wouldn't be the first person to miss this glaringly obviously. Come to think about it, almost every time Jesus quotes the Hebrew scriptures, he says, friends, look again. I think you may have missed something. Okay, the fact is that I did miss something. I was soon to find out the hidden plain sight, the first verse of the Bible of Genesis. Yeah, plain sight, people. It's usually right. That's how it works. Plain sight. And Lucifer, yes. Lucifer is the bringer. As we get into this, I know I get to wondering if everything we know is always inversed. Maybe everything is inversed. So just think about the good being the bad guy and the bad guy being the good guy. So maybe the serpent was the good guy. Good guys always finish last, don't they? Something to think about. Okay. Yep. I know when my legs are being pulled. Yep. Yes, you do. Okay. But here we go. Genesis 3:16. In pain you will give birth to children. In childbearing, a punishment or a consequence. No childbirth has occurred prior to this moment. In the flow of the story, painful childbirth is the only kind, and it comes after the humans gain consciousness, self-awareness, and sexuality naturally. Yeah, who taught Adam and Eve the birds and the bees? That's a good question. And see, off the hook is a smart one here. She says, they say it was Yeshua. Here. Well, here's the question. If that was Yeshua, how come they didn't name him as Yeshua at that point? How come they didn't just put his name in there and said, Yeshua said? That Yeshua came on along afterwards. At this point in the beginning, they're calling him the Elohim. Okay, so Genesis 3:22. The Yahweh Elohim said, "See, the human has become like one of us," and so that means we are them and they are us, or whatever. We look like them, and so we're equals. Just a second. One of who? Who is God? Like that, we humans would be like them. This is a literally trick. It's not a royal we are or an author we. This really is plural. Yeah, it's all in the wording, people. Because he came after the snake. Yes. Okay, so we go on. Genesis 4:14. I will be restless wanderer of the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Oh, yeah, they're talking about Cain and Abel. That's a famous saying. I know that. Excuse me, who are these other people, these whoever's outside of the garden who are going to kill Cain if they meet him? They can't be children of Adam and Eve. So who? Well, we're going to dive a little bit into this, and I'm going to ask other questions beyond what this Paul Wallis guy says. He says, Cain, you remember the story about Cain and Abel. Cain was giving up vegetables to God, and Abel was giving meat. God said, yeah, I like the meat. I'm going to sum it up. I'm not going to quote out of the Bible, but he says, I like the meat. I like how it smells. Ooh, well, who doesn't love a good steak? You know? And Cain's up there saying, I'm a veggie man. I like my veggies. And God said, I hate veggies. I don't want to eat veggies. So, Cain gets a bad raw deal and clubs Abel in the head and says, throw him in the ground here and bury him. He makes some good fertilizer for my vegetables. Well, if God is so smart, he comes down and says, hey, where's your brother? Well, I'm not my brother's keeper. you know, what do you mean? There's only supposed to be two of you plus Adam and Eve. Here, come on. God, are you an idiot? You can't keep track of you got four people in the world right at this point, according to the Bible. You got four people going on here, and you can't keep track of all four. That's what I'm saying. Well, what kind of moron can't you do? You got four people on a whole gosh darn planet, and they're all worshiping you, and you can't keep track of them. And then when one disappears, you're like, oh my goodness, one just disappeared. This is crazy. Where is he? You got to ask one of the human beings where he is. And that's almost funny. So then he's like, oh, you're bad. Well, I only got three left. There's only three of you left. Shoot, I'd like to do away with you, but since there's only three of you and I need you to, populate the world, I guess, you know what? I'm going to mark you and send you out. So other people won't kill you. What do you mean other people kill you? See, that's what they're getting at, is who's going to kill Cain? Who's outside of the garden? What, the wild animals that you just made? No, that's the whole point. Anyway. Off the hook. You are right on top of it here. How do we know it was animals he sacrificed? How do we know it wasn't human sacrifice? Well, there was only four people. Adam and Eve. According to the Bible, there was only four people. If you couldn't sacrifice people because there wasn't supposedly any other ones except Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. See, that makes sense. And if it was animals, he could have went and got animals to, he said he was a herder. Well, it did say that Abel was a herder of sheep and animals and stuff. So, and Cain raised crops. In my eyes, they're both equally good. You can't have a farm if you don't raise any crops to feed the animals, right? No, it says there were others. Yes. No, it says there were others. Oh, well, there were others. It does say there was others. It says there were others it says other people, whoever, outside of the garden. So there was others. So where are these others? And my question is, who are these others? I'm not denying that there's others. But who are these others that live outside of the garden? That's the big question. At least in my eyes. Okay, we'll go on. Genesis 6:9. The animals went in 2 by 2, right? Apparently not. I can see that Genesis 1 and 2 put two creation narratives side by side. Genesis 6-9 looks like it's taken two flood accounts and woven them together. Yes, there was plenty of flood accounts. There was a lot of flood accounts. Got to look it up in Genesis. Yes, we might just do that. I might even just read the whole story of Adam and Eve just to get it down. And Lilith. Yes, Lilith might have been before Adam and Eve, but it doesn't really talk about Lilith in the Bible. Okay, we might just do this. That's a good point. Let's see. Adam and Eve. Genesis 1, 2, book of Genesis. Well, there we go. You can just Google anything. Uh, bum, bum, bum. Let's try this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. See, this is how it goes. Hmm. Well, what do you think? Okay. Or Samuel. Okay. Let me know if you want me to read the story of Genesis before we go on. Well, I got it pulled up on the computer and I could read it. Would you like me to read the story of Genesis before we move on? Because right here we're getting into the animals go two by two. Okay, and it says here there might have been more than two floods. Accounts and woven them together. In one version, the animals enter in pairs. In the other, they've worked out a more complicated system. Just remember that Genesis has taken from a number of sources and interwoven them to create a familiar version. So some texts tell stories of the Elohim, others speak of Yahweh, the holy name of God revealed to Moses in a later age. Scholars call this second narrator J, or traditionally Moses. Yes. Can you tell I've been a big fan of Wayne? Yes. 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 Off the hook, I am a two. I am very much two. This is why I read this book. As Wayne started me out on this book. So go over there and check out Wayne Steiger, his show. Great. And Jeffrey Daughtry was another one. Really got me into thinking and questioning the narrative. Oh man, I miss Jeffrey Daughtry. Anyway, um, I remember it says here, he says, this Paul Wallis, he says, I remember reading in college on 18th century Bible scholars like Gene and Carl, and, goes on and on. These academics might not have entirely nailed it, but they were easy to see how J inserts the holy name into Genesis. Sometimes J replaces Elohim with Yahweh. Other times, he just adds the name Yahweh to Elohim and Elohim story. I can see why he would do that. J is telling a reader to see the hand of Yahweh in the drama of the story. How did I miss the implication of this? Because the very presence of post-Moses name of Yahweh in Genesis tells me that we are not reading the original version of Genesis. Which means magician. Moses. Yes, Moses is a magician. You got it. Oh yeah, I gotta show you. I'm gonna be doing this too. I have books of Moses 8, 9, and 10. And that is for another show after we get done with this one. I hope you will all come in and tune in, because Moses was a magician trained by the seers of Egypt all the way down to the craziness. I mean, talk about Egyptians, yeah. Here's little Moses sitting on the lap of a, giant. Who knows? Maybe Moses was taught by these people. And you can see these are little people sitting on giant laps. Who were these people? Were they the gods? Was this the gods of the Bible? Are these the people we're worshiping? Well, I'm not doing it. That's what it means to me. This is what it looks. This is what I think of it. That's scary. People coming down a winged craft. This is telling a story by people who don't understand what it was they were seeing. They seen somebody sitting in a ship with wings, and this, I guess if I never seen a plane and there was a guy in there, I would be thinking this too. Yes, they are aliens. Jesus is an alien. Definitely, definitely, definitely. See? And he rose up into the heavens in his spaceship. They just left out that little part, people. When they say he rose up above the clouds and they watched him go up into the heavens. Well, there he is, rising up into the clouds, going up into the heavens. Yes. Or maybe it was more like this. They just left out the rest of it. Yeah, exactly. So stop. I gotta do that because that is kind of funny. Okay. Let's see. Here we get back to the story. How did I miss the implication? It's because the very presence of the postmodernist name is Yahweh in Genesis tells me that we are not reading an original version of Genesis. I'm saying which is the original version. Where is it? We don't know. Jay isn't hiding what he's doing. When he adds the holy name, Jay shows to the reader that he is taking an even older story, which was probably a known story of written and oral tradition. In plain sight, he alters it. So now I have to ask, what about the original version of these stories? What text was Jay working with? And if they weren't Yahweh stories, and if the Elohim in them were plural, were the original versions of Genesis stories? Where are they? I think they're in the bottom of the Vatican. Under all of Vatican there's a giant library, and I'm sure those stories are hidden there in that giant library. They love the smell of burning. Oh, yes. If anybody's here knows what they're talking about, off the hook, you are right on the money. You should never change the name of an entity. That's right. And I've argued this one for a long time. If my name is Robert, and I go to a foreign country, my name is, they're going to say, Hablo Español Robert, and they're going to call me by my name. If I go to China, they'll be Robert, and they will call me by my name. If I go to Germany, they're going to say, and then they're going to say Robert. Yeah, Yasin, yeah. So then they're going to call me Robert as my name, and it's going to go on from there and on and on and on. And no matter where I go, my name is still going to be Robert. Am I wrong? Are they going to say, nope, Robert in Chinese is Ching Chong. Yeah. And I ain't going to know who I am because my name isn't them. Right? Now I could see, off the hook says Jesus means son of Zeus. Now, I could understand if you, over hundreds of years, pronounced a name and it slowly got changed. Say you were saying Jesus, and somehow or another, after hundreds of years, it went to Jesus to Zeus. Jesus, Yazoo, to Zeus. Then we would say, oh, yeah, well, either Zeus went to Jesus or Jesus went to Zeus. Or maybe it means something else, but you don't change it because somebody mispronounced it somewhere along the line. But the problem is it wasn't mispronounced. That's the point. You couldn't change it from one to another. That makes no sense. Anyway, okay. So before we get on with this, I got just enough time to read the creation story. So we're just going to get on with that. And because we're talking so much about it, we're just going to put it up there. Okay. And because this is how we're doing it. I got a few more minutes left, and then we're going to call it a night. So, in the beginning, the Elohim created heaven and earth. See how they changed it from, God to Elohim, meaning gods. So, in the beginning, the gods created heaven and earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep water. The Rusha of Elohim was hovering over the water. Now, how would he hover over the water? Is not God supposed to be everywhere at all times? How would he hover over the water? In his spaceship. The Elohim said, "Let there be light." So there was light. Well, he said, "Let there be light." Did he turn on the light? Elohim saw that the light was good. So Elohim separated the light from the darkness. So Elohim named the light day, and the darkness he named night. There was evening, and then there was morning, the first day. So are they talking about, that everything was dark before that happened? The thing is what he's, so in my head, now if I'm wrong, you can argue with me, but this is my opinion. There was darkness, and there's more darkness. You go into a cave, it's dark, right? If you were the earth and there was no sun, it would be dark. So are they talking about the Elohim and he created the light? Did the Elohim, the gods, create the sun? Get it? The sun god. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, think about it for a while. The sun. They created the sun. And they said, oh, well, this, now the earth has two sides to it. So we got the yin and the yang, the good and the dark, the bad, here, the light, day, night. It doesn't take much to figure that out, especially if you're a genius to create a sun. They created the sun because before the sun, there's just nothing but darkness. Okay. The Elohim said, "Let there be horizon in the middle of the water in order to separate the waters." Elohim made the horizon and separated the water above and below the horizon. And so it was that Elohim named what was above the horizon sky. There was evening, then morning, a second day. I think they're just doing that, to show you that the earth was, being made, or it was being discovered. But would you not, if you discovered something, also claim that you made something? You could do that. Okay, the Elohim said, let the water under the sky come together in one area, and let the land appear. And so it was. The Elohim named the dry land earth. The water which came together he named sea. Saw what happened about the lakes and the rivers and things like that? There was none. Which came together named sea. Elohim saw that it was good. Then the Elohim said, let the earth produce vegetation, plants bearing seeds, each according to its own type, and the fruit trees bearing fruit with seeds, each according to its own type, and so on. And so it was. The earth produced vegetation, plants bearing seeds, each according to its own type, and the trees bearing fruit with seeds, each according to its own type. Elohim saw that they were good. This was the evening, and then morning, a third day. So, I hate to be a party pooper, but whoever's creating the plants knows that they're seeds, which means that you have to have a boy and a girl to produce seeds. They're not stupid. They know you got to have a boy and a girl to make a seed so you can reproduce the plants. Now, if you're so smart and you create man and you go, oh crap, I didn't make a seed. So wouldn't you make Eve first and Adam second? You think about that. Okay, then the Elohim said, let the waters swarm and be swimming with creatures, and let the birds fly. Well, he's already named birds then. Fly through the sky over the earth, but not all birds fly either. Okay, Elohim created the sea, the large sea creatures, every type of creature that swims around in the waters, and every type of flying bird. Elohim saw that they were good. So what? You created all these birds and all these plants, and you all made them reproduce, because you didn't just say, oh, I'm only going to make one sparrow, one swallow, one everything, and they're going to populate the earth. No, you make two. You make a boy and a girl. You make fish, you boy and a girl, and then you send them out to do their thing. The Elohim said, okay. So he created the fish and the birds and all of that stuff. Then there was evening and then morning. And like, we're stupid. We couldn't figure out there was still evening and morning. He didn't like, oh, I forgot about the evening. The Elohim said, let the earth produce every type of living creature, every type of domestic animal. Why would they be domestic animals? Listen to this. Every type of domestic animal. So what? You know how many domestic type animals there are? Just think, it's not just cows. You don't have just a cow. Well, I got a cow. It's a domestic animal. And I got a sheep and a goat and and you can go on and on with all these domestic animals. Well, who's taking care of them? Why are domestic animals domestic? They're domestic because there's people to take care of those animals. And if not, well, then they're not domestic anymore. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, let me know. I can have a domestic buffalo. I can have a domestic tiger that I keep in a cage, and there's people who do. You can have a domestic bird. It doesn't have to be, a parakeet. If you let the parakeet go and it flies around, it's not domestic anymore. Anyway, the Elohim said, let the earth produce every type of living creature. Okay, so he just snaps his fingers and every living creature comes into existence. And I say, bull crap. The Elohim said, let us make humans in our image. Now, notice that he said humans with a z, in our likeness. Then let them rule the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and the domestic animals all over the earth. And all over the earth. Humans all over the earth. What? You're going to create one Adam guy and he's going to rule them all, and all those domestic. He's going to have a big ass farm. That's all I'm saying. Okay, and then he's going to have a lot of work. But of course, we find out later there's a whole bunch of other people on the earth, so something's wrong with that story. The Elohim said, let us make humans in our own image and in our likeness. Let them rule the fish of the sea, the birds in the sky, domestic animals all over the earth, and crawl on the earth. So the Elohim created humans in his image. In the image of the Elohim, he created them. He created them male and female. Okay, so he created man and woman. Whoa. He's creating man and woman right now. So is this the first humans? Elohim blessed them and said, be fertile, increase in number, fill the earth, and be its master. Rule the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, all the animals that crawl on the earth. Okay, great. So he made man and woman. Wow, he's smart. And he said, rule over everything. Great. I've given you every plant and seed on the face of the earth, and every tree, etc., and over your food. I've given all green plants as food to every land animal, every bird in the sky, and every animal that crawls the earth, every living, breathing animal. And so it was. The Elohim saw everything that he had made, and that was good. And there was evening, then morning, the sixth day. And that's the end of the story. Oh, heaven and earth, everything in them were finished. By the seventh day, Elohim had finished the work he had been doing. On the seventh day, he stopped the work he had been doing. Well, okay. The Elohim blessed the seventh day and said, set it apart as holy, because on the day he stopped all his work of creation. Okay, This is the account of heaven and earth. They were created at the time when Yahweh Elohim made earth and heaven. Well, okay, so this Yahweh dude shows up and he's claiming he made earth. Wild bushes and plants were not on the earth yet because Yahweh Elohim hasn't sent rain on the earth. Also, there was no one to farm the land. Instead, underground water would come up from the earth and water the entire surface of the ground. Then Yahweh Elohim formed the man from the dust of the earth and blew the breath of life into his nostrils. Wow! Okay, wait a minute. What story did we read? We just got done reading where Elohim made all the animals and all the plants and all the men and the women, and now he says, well, there's no man on earth. No one to farm the land. Wait a minute. I just read where they made man and woman. Hey, do you people not see this? Now he's saying I formed the man from the dust of the earth. Well, the dust of the earth is the minerals. The minerals, because your body is made up of several things. Minerals and water. Minerals and water, and you can make a human. Okay. And the dust is where the minerals are. Then he blew the breath of life into his nostrils. The man became a living being. Okay. This makes no sense. He blew the breath of life into it. Means that he put a spirit into it. And we're going to stop right there. And I want you all to think about that for a while. And tomorrow, we'll get right back at it. Because tonight, we had a great show. And we're going to leave it off of there. Blew the breath of life into this dust-created creation of his, just like Frankenstein. But what does that all mean? I want you to come back tomorrow. And we're going to review this a little bit more, maybe look up some old Bible stuff and some different things, and we're going to get right back to this book right here where we can question everything. I hope you're enjoying this. I had a good time with it, and we'll catch you tomorrow night. Remember, go over to Nina the Mystic on Sunday, where I will be there, and we will be reading from the Horns of the Goddess on Sunday night. And we're going to be doing that series now. Also, Saturday night, Trinity of Truth, right here on the Milky Way Soul Tribe. And I don't even know who we're going to have for guests. We'll have somebody good. And don't you worry. Be right here sooner than later. Remember, go out and do something nice for somebody. Remember, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love y'all. Peace, everybody.